Robert W. Green was born on June 12, 1911 in Jasper, Indiana, to Bruce and Ida Mae Henry Green. He grew up on West 5th Street and attended St. Joseph's Grade School, graduating in 1925. It was at St. Joseph's that he first dreamed of becoming a foreign missionary, which he said was inspired by the zeal of the Sisters of Providence who taught him there. Robert Green went to high school at Jasper Academy and then began his studies for the priesthood at St. Meinrad Seminary. The dream of becoming a missionary never left him, and after 2 years he requested permission to transfer to the Maryknoll Seminary at Ossining, New York. Father Green was ordained there on June 16, 1937. 4 days later, on June 20th, Father Green said his first Mass in his home parish church of St. Joseph's, which was an occasion of great celebration in his hometown. After spending a short time at home, Father Green was assigned to his first mission at Guilin in southwest China. During World War II, the Guilin Mission Church was bombed and the city was captured by the Japanese. Father Green was forced to flee to a more remote part of the country, where he volunteered as a chaplain for U.S. airmen stationed near the Burma border. The airmen knew that Father Green wanted to rebuild his mission's church and collected nearly $5,000, which they gave him to help with the rebuilding. Following the war in 1946, Father Green was assigned to be the pastor of the Maryknoll Mission in the market village of Tungan, in the same province as Guilin. Father would remain at this mission for the rest of his time in China, and it would eventually become his prison. Communist organizers first entered the Tungan mission on December 5, 1949. Within a few weeks, more hardcore regular Red Army troops had taken over the mission and gradually shut it down completely. No more masses could be said or catechism classes taught. Even the dispensary was closed, shutting off the only medical treatment available to the people for 50 miles around. The soldiers spread the story that Father Green had closed the dispensary on his own because he no longer wanted to take care of the local people, even though they had been coming to him for years for treatment. The 2 assistant Maryknoll priests who were stationed at the mission were sent away, as were the 3 native Chinese nuns who were also there. The chapel was emptied of its altars, pews, statues, and other religious articles, and turned into a jail for local political prisoners. By then, Father Green was confined to his room in the rectory under house arrest. He was allowed out for 20 minutes every 3 days to walk to the village to buy a meager supply of food. This was always difficult due to the fact that the villagers had been ordered not to speak to him. For 16 months, Father was subjected to daily interrogations and intimidation. Soldiers and communist officials entered his room without warning at all hours and repeated the same questions over and over, sometimes several times in the same day. He managed to say Mass quickly early each morning while his guards slept, and also kept the Blessed Sacrament concealed in a locked storage box that miraculously was never discovered. Father Green was accused of a variety of charges, such as being a spy, being a false priest, and attempting to harm the local people with his medical treatments, even though he had provided compassionate care to them for years. His captors also accused him of hiding guns and ammunition and providing assistance to anti-communist troops. He endured nearly a year and a half of physical deprivation, mental intimidation, illness, attempts at brainwashing, and intense loneliness, sustained only by his faith, and particularly his devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Finally, beginning on Palm Sunday, 1952, Father Green was put on trial. Sessions continued daily through Easter Sunday, with many of his former converts and Chinese friends testifying against him. He was found guilty of all charges, and the judge sentenced him to death by beheading. The next morning, he was brought before the judge again and told that the government of Mao Zedong was going to be merciful and deport him from China forever instead. During the 700-mile trip from Tungan to Hong Kong, Father Green was put on display at each train stop, and the charges against him were broadcast for the crowds to hear. Finally, he was allowed to cross the border to freedom, where the British guards greeted him compassionately. After a period of rest and recovery, Father Green came home to Jasper in August of 1952 to light a freedom lamp erected in his honor in front of the library by the Jasper Jaycees. At the urging of his superiors at Maryknoll, he then set to work writing an account of his ordeal. The book was called Calvary in China and quickly made the bestseller list after its publication in 1953. In January of 1956, an episode of the ABC television program Crossroads dramatized the account of Father Green's imprisonment and trial to a national audience. In the years after leaving China, Father Green primarily did development work for Maryknoll. He continued to maintain many friendships in Jasper and visited as often as possible. He celebrated the silver and golden jubilees of his ordination with his Jasper friends. After retirement, he frequently substituted for priests throughout southern Indiana and northern Kentucky who took time off. In 1984, Father Green returned to China under another name for a brief visit. He was able to spend a few hours with some of the families in the Tong'an area he had converted to Christianity. He found they had kept their faith alive in spite of the communists by saying the prayers he had taught them and passing them on to their children. When Father Green was expelled from China, he was not quite 41 years old. His captors told him he would never live to see 50 because the Chinese would rule America by then and would take care of him. But Father Green proved them wrong. He continued to serve Maryknoll and the God he loved so deeply for 51 more years. He died on September 11th, 2003, at the age of 92.